coming up?
So I would say the main problem is that many people talk about Africa as if like it's one big market or one big neighborhood where everyone think and act the same, but that's not the case. Africa has got a lot of diversity in culture, and many people have got different access to internet, payment methods, even the phone usage or and customer needs are different. I think the many first interaction that create trust when it comes to operating in the iGaming industry, I would say one, speed. When I talk of speed, I mean very fast. The product must be fast because if it is slow, users start to lose trust. That's the first point that I can talk about. Then the second point that I can talk about is simplicity. The platform should be easier, okay? Should be easier for users to use, not to struggle with it or get confused.
If we instead look at the future for retail, I think retail in a couple of years will be more hybrid solution. So a single wallet is shared between retail and online. So the gap between retail and online will be less, and people will feel that they play a game and not play a retail or a online game.
Dear listeners, thank you for being part of the iGaming Africa podcast. Remember to visit our website igamingafrica.com for the latest news and updates from the iGaming industry in Africa. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the iGaming African podcast. I'm your host Victoria, and today is a very interesting session because I have with me Banda, who is the affiliate manager from Win Win Bets, and we'll be talking about beyond what the ecosystem assumes, what exactly do the African player want? And I think it's a very unique perspective to look at things, especially from the player's perspective. So stay tuned with us because it's going to be an amazing and interactive session. So yeah, Matthew, how are you doing today?
Doing okay, and how are you?
I'm doing really good, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So yeah, tell us a bit about yourself before we really go deep into the conversation.
Okay, thank you for having me today. My name is Banda, and I'm the affiliate manager for Win Win Bet and God Parry. We offer the best iGaming online in Africa and parts of the world as well. Our website, or I can just say Win Win, is a user friendly and we pay out on time. Yes, I'm sure that's the best description that I can give, the best description for my company.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Today one of the main things we're going to be talking about is about the player's perspective of things. The industry, especially on a global standard, assumes of Africa so many things, and now we're trying to think deeply into what exactly do our players want. So I'm kind of wondering, everyone talks about Africa as the next big growth market, especially in iGaming. In your view, what do you think people in the industry still really misunderstands about the region before we even dive deeper into those things?
Okay, thank you for that question, Victoria. So I would say the main problem is that many people talk about Africa as if like it's one big market or one big neighborhood where everyone think and act the same, but that's not the case. Africa has got a lot of diversity in culture, and many people have got different access to internet, payment methods, even the phone usage or and customer needs are different. Take for instance, in the same city, we have got people that have got different habits and expectations. From our experience, win-win bet and got parry, we learned that Africa is not one big market. It's a small market which has got a lot of different countries. So most operators they need to take different strategies and approaches on it. Thank you.
Yeah, just doubling down on that particular conversation. I think we talk about it all the time on this channel because Africa is huge, especially when you think of regulation, you think of even language. We don't speak the same language across several countries. And even, religion, there's so many things that divides Africa because they are countries. It's not one big concept. And you really mentioned how it's dangerous to treat Africa as a single market. Could you explain deeper maybe into how player behaviors differs across countries, even within the same city? Because you mentioned that.
Um, I would say player behavior is more different than most operators expect. Even in countries such as Kenya or Nigeria, users have different the way they handle the product, or maybe I would say websites. For instance, many people have got different preferences when it comes to payment methods, even at the time that they choose to visit these websites. Okay, in my understanding, I feel like users in the morning are more faster and focused, and they are always looking at getting the faster response or visiting these websites that have got something that they have to offer. Then, for instance, in the evening, users are more like they are tired from work, and what they are looking for most of the time is basically entertainment and the best user experience at the same time, if I may say so. Players' behavior is more different than most operators expect. Even take for instance countries like Kenya and Ghana. If these player users had the same behavior, my job as a product guy would have been way much too easier. But it is because of the behavior of these users that's what makes my job hard. For instance, these players or these users, they usually have got different preferences when it comes to payment methods. Even they choose to visit these websites at a different time. Okay, for instance, the morning users are usually quick and focused. They want fast and simple actions. Then in the evening, users spend more time looking for entertainment and basic experience. It is for this fact that one fixed user journey does not work for everyone. Platforms needs to adjust based on the user journey and time of the day.
That's a pretty interesting perspective. From what I can see, there's a whole lot of data available in the market now. And, looking at the data we have today, in your own opinion, where do you think operators usually make mistake, especially when interpreting this data? Because you were talking about how the different types of users from the ones we have in the morning, in the evening, and even their rate of interaction with the platform. Looking at all this, where do you think operators make mistake when interpreting this data?
Okay, thank you very much for that question, Victoria. I would say the problem is not lack of data. It's how people understand it. Many operators only look at big numbers such as market size, growth rate, or $1 billion forecast. I can give you an example. In 20, there has been a $1 billion forecast which has been done for 2028 that the iGaming industry will reach up to 2.36 billion. And mind you, those numbers create excitement, but they do not show how users usually behave when they're using the product. The mistake is that these big numbers mean full understanding, but the value is in small detail. Okay, the value is in small details. I can give you the perfect three examples that I would want you to take home or to take the viewers home. One, they need to start focusing on where users stop using the product. That's the first point. The second point, they need also to focus on what makes the users trust the brand. Then the third point, I would say how quickly users leave the brand. So those are the many things they need to focus on as they are interpreting the data. Without these small behaviors or without these points that I've said, the data can be misleading and instead of being helpful.
Mm. Wow, that's really, really insightful because at the end of the day, I think the user interaction and the user journey at every step of the way is super important to understanding what exactly your brand is doing well. But I think I really, really love the part where you talked about the trust. I think that's pretty interesting. I'm kind of curious because, you have spoken so well, especially even analyzing how to view data. So, at what point, with your job at Win Women at Gold Parry, did you realize that the key factor here was not just geography, but, user trust and journey?
Okay, thank you for that question again. Okay, so we understood this when we noticed the same behavior in many different markets. I can give you the perfect example is that when these users that they react the same if they do not trust the product. If the product is slow on the market, they leave instantly. And if the product is not reliable, they leave instantly. So at Gold Parry and Win Win Bet, this taught us that trust is the most important thing. People stay where they feel safe and comfortable. That is why trust is now our main focus for our two platforms, such as Gold Parry and Win Win Bet.
That's a very interesting perspective, honestly. And I think people undermine how important. I know, not undermine particularly, but I think a lot of iGaming platforms try to establish, user trust. But I think trust is one of those things where you can't just make people trust you. It's literally in the little things, like you mentioned, maybe payout time, maybe even them just feeling safe with the platform. So I think I want to dive deep a bit into trust. What are the core product elements that helps player build trust, or what that helps platform build trust from the very first interaction? Because I think trust is one of those things where once a brand loses it, it's super hard to build back. But in from the first step, it's easy to integrate into the little things. What would you say are the core product element that would help build trust with players from their first interaction?
Okay, I think the many first interaction that create trust when it comes to operating in the iGaming industry, I would say one, speed. When I talk of speed, I mean very fast. The product must be fast because if it is slow, users start to lose trust. That's the first point that I can talk about. Then the second point that I can talk about is simplicity. The platform should be easier, okay, should be easier for users to use, not to struggle with it or get confused. Then the other point that I could talk about is choice. When users have many choices, it helps them to feel comfortable and trust in the product. If take for instance, at Win-Win or Gold Parry, we have made registration very fast. It usually takes about a few minutes. I can guarantee you that if you can visit our website right now, you'll be able to make a registration within 1 minute to 3 minutes. Yes. So because the first experience is very important for building trust.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Especially, you mentioned three key things, which is speed. Also, you mentioned what's it called, simplicity, and then you mentioned choice. But I know you doubled down and made strong emphasis on speed and simplicity. Why do you think these two factors are critical, specifically for African players? I know on a global scale it may be very important, but I think the African iGaming space is still evolving. And why do you think these two are like the ones you place the strongest emphasis on? Because I think trust is a pretty important part of the whole process, as we're already discussing.
Okay. Thank you again for that question, Victoria. I would say our main users, they use I can say mobile, not just any other mini device, but if I can put it in this way, that's their primary device that they use. Because of this, their expectations are simple and direct. If an application is slow or heavy, they quickly see it as more of like something that doesn't work for them. That is why platform like Win-Win Bet and GoldParry are built very easy and fast to use, especially when signing up. We do not accept difficulties or complications. If there are too many frictions, these users like they leave the platform.
Wow, that's really interesting. I think I get it. Just moving on from that to understanding the third point, because I know you also talked about choices, and you mentioned how important the choice of having a wide range of options are. So, why do you think this variety matters so much? Even if African players tend to maybe play a preferred format or like few choices, you mentioned how important it is to still have that variety. You know, like what is that like? What would you say? Like why does that variety matter so much?
So it is mostly about psychology. Even if users only use few features, seeing many options make the platform feel bigger and more professional. On platform like Win-Win and GoatBarry, we offer many choices like sports market and a lot of casino. I can give you, for instance, if you visit our website right now, you'll find that we have got about 40 sports and we have got about 4,000 uh, casinos. For instance, I can give you the most visited casinos, Aviator and also Candy Crush. Those are the major games that most of our users visit. It's again variety. It's about building trust. It makes users feel the platform is serious, large, and well established.
You've mentioned some really interesting insights today, and I find it super enlightening because I think even looking at the three main areas you're talking about, especially with things the brand needs to do, and also the expectations of the players. I'm kind of wondering because you've spoken heavily on data today, looking at how players interact with the platform in the morning, different from afternoon, and even their longevity on the platform and what they expect differs based on the time. That has a lot to do with data and looking at the market. So I'm kind of wondering from your experience, what would you say are the main player behavior types you see in the market today, especially looking at the African market?
Okay, looking at the African market, I can say we usually see three types of prayer behaviors. The first, I can categorize them in groups. The first one, these are casual users who just want entertainment. They don't stay long. They leave quickly if anything slows down. Then the second player behavior, I can just say intense sports forecast users. These are very active users. They follow live events in real time and they need the platform to be fast and stable. Yeah. Then the third group, I can say these are the community driven, or I can say recommendations. Okay. Yeah, these the recommendations. So these they already trust the platform before using it, even through these groups that they join. Okay, so they come through more like a recommendation from friends or from tipsters. They expect the same basic uh, recommendation that they were given by friends. That must be fast, easier to use, and trustworthy.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Because you mentioned two key things, and I'm going to follow up on the both. But for the first one, you talked about the high intent sport users. I'm kind of wondering, could you tell us a bit more? And you spoke about how technical speed is like super important to this segment. Can you maybe double down on that a bit and just tell us more?
So for like the question that you are from, thank you for the question that you are from asking me. For our Indian sports users, uh, these users like they are active in real time. They watch live event and they react instantly and they make quick decisions at the same time. Even just a small delay can ruin their experience completely. So that's why, like for Goat Parry, we use a lightweight app designed for weak internet or unstable internet. Then for Win-Win Bet user mobile system, we have what we call where we update odds even on poor internet connectivity. So for these users, their performance is not it is not just a feature; it is their whole product.
That's interesting. I think I would also think of high intent users in that direction. But thank you for explaining deeply. But I know in the same conversation you spoke deeply about community trust. You know how people would refer, like, and they would come on the platform expecting the same game or the same experience. You know, just doubling down a bit on community trust because it seems like a major role, especially in user acquisition. So, how important would you say word of mouth recommendation and social media channel, like let's say WhatsApp, because that's more very community based, interpersonal? How important would you say that is in the market? You know, in contrast to other market where maybe online is enough. What is that like?
Okay. So for the community-driven users, it is one of the most powerful ways users discover platforms in many regions. Many users come from WhatsApp groups, friends recommendation, or local communities. They already trust the platform before they even sign up, or before they even make deposits. They already trust the platform. This changes everything for platforms like Win-Win and God Party. The goal is not only to convince users to try it, but it is also to make sure that the experience quickly confirms what they already heard from their recommenders or from friends.
Oh yeah, that's really nice. Because I think I could actually imagine how huge community plays a role, especially in the African market. Because I think a lot of times people still trust a lot. Like, you know, my friend said this, my brother said this, rather than even online. I know people will tell you, I wouldn't shop on Instagram because but if someone tells them, oh, I bought from that person on Instagram, they're like, oh, okay, that person is legit. So I think it's just a lot to do with, even I think that's something we have very common across the market. Like, people trust the person around them more than what they just see online on the average. But you know, talking about promotion, user acquisition, I think a lot of times we still see operators relying heavily on large bonuses. And, you know, looking at that, why do you think? Because personally, I believe a better offer, like, you know, just something that is honest, actually works more than, you know, we see a lot of aggressive promotional tactics and mechanisms going around. Why do you believe, or what's your own perspective on that? Like, what do you think works more? And what do you think bring the users in?
Thank you very much for that question, Victoria. In my own perspective, I feel like bonuses can get users interested, but they don't keep users loyal by themselves. What I mean is that if the rules are unclear or they feel hidden, users quickly lose trust. But what I can assure you is that if the bonuses are smaller but clear and transparent, which offers more often work and better because uh, they feel fair. They also set honesty expectations, which is the most important for keeping users engaged for the long run. I mean.
Yeah, I think we share pretty much the same perspective on this topic because I think I see it a lot. I'm like, why are you doing this? Because you know, you set expectations, the users come in, and then they drop off because you're not setting a sustainable or even an honest, real expectation of what being on the platform would be like. And you know, just looking into that a bit because I know you spoke about how promotions can genuinely bring the players in, but it definitely will not keep them. So I'm thinking, you know, beyond bonuses, what specific, I know you've mentioned a lot of things around product today, but like we've spoken about speed, we've spoken about so many things, but just trying to dive deep into that statement, beyond bonuses, what specific product or support decision would you say has helped you at WinWinBet, at Gold Parry to retain users in the long term?
Okay, so things like I can just say things like payout, smooth user experience, easier onboarding, and reliable customer support are the basic things that matters most. In platforms like Win-Win and GoodParry, we usually have quick payouts, which often customers are able to receive their payouts within 15 minutes. And also, we also have a 24/7 customer support, which is the most very imperative part of the customer's journey or the customer's experience. So, small issues build up over time. So, being consistently reliable is the most important than having any single standout feature.
True. I think in this iGaming space, reliability is such a huge part. And I don't think any real operator should definitely look down on that. You've mentioned some of amazing things I've heard today, especially diving deep into data. I think that's been super, super enlightening for me particularly. I love data. I love to look at them because I think data definitely always tells us the answer if we know the right things to look for, just like you mentioned. But just looking forward, if you had to summarize one key lessons for operators looking to operate in Africa in 2026, what would that be?
So the main point that I would tell each and every one is that Africa is not one single market. Africa is has a lot of countries, and it has a lot of diversity in the way people think and listen, and the way they have their own preferences. I would say that they are different. So instead, there are many. We also have got many different users with different behavior situations, level of trust. To succeed, you need to understand this complexity and also build trust around it. As I've mentioned, if you are building trust, you need to have speed, simplicity, and also variety or choices.
I don't think you could have said it any better. I think the more operators understand that Africa is diverse and Africa is unique in the way that it is. We are not one. Well, obviously, we are one globe, or, one in unity, and so many of that. But we are not just a single market. We are 54 different markets, and I think even looking at it from that perspective also helps them to look at the differences in regulation, which I think plays a huge part in how different and diverse the market is. Um, just doubling down a bit on like we've spoken about so many things, but just rounding it up, what are some of the key things you're really looking forward to in the iGaming space, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years? I'm just trying to see from your perspective.
Okay, so I feel like in the next 5 years or 3 years, I'm looking at the change in the way the iGaming industry, or maybe I can say operators look at Africa as one big continent. Africa is not one big continent, and I would also want also to urge them not only to focus more on the data, especially on the market size, growth rate, and $1 billion forecast. As you are aware that this thing they just make them way more excited. Instead, they need to focus more on how users use this product and how they behave when they're using it, and also just to create trust in Africa as well.
So this has been super, super interesting for me. I've had the opportunity to learn a lot just by listening to you talk about your industry, your work, and it's been really enlightening for me. And I know I'm not the only one. There are also people listening to this who have found you super interesting. I would love to connect with you and maybe even know more about the work at Gold Paris. So how best can people connect with you or even learn more about Gold Paris?
So you can connect with me like on LinkedIn. My user names are Matthews Banda, and also on Facebook as well. You can connect with me, and also on Telegram. My names are Matthews Win Win. Yes, that's my username. How you can visit our website. Our website, it's you can visit our website on www.winwin.bet.com.
Sounds interesting. I know definitely a lot of people will be reaching out. This has been such an eye opening and interesting conversation. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I can't wait to connect with you further and learn even more from your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you for having me, Victoria, on your podcast. It has been a very interesting conversation with you, and looking forward to join you again on your podcast.
Yeah, sounds interesting. So thank you so much, our viewers. We'll see you in the next episode. Until next time, I remain your host. Bye, guys.